All right, folks. Here we are. Here we are. You are listening to Mr. Josh W, the Mr. Josh W, well, the Mr. Josh podcast. I don't stick a W in it. So much for that. Wearing the MAGA hat today. Love the hate mail. Love whatever anyone's going to send me. Don't hate on Donald Trump. Just embrace the love and be happy that somehow, some way, we're putting this country back on track. Man, the fucking pedophiles getting arrested, all sorts of shit.
He's also wearing a gold chain with the MAGA hat.
He's also wearing a gold chain.
This is
a gift I've had for many, many years. And I basically look at this gold chain like this. If I never have another dollar in my pocket, God forbid, I'm totally, totally broke, I got $1,000 around my neck to start a new life. And that's really, it's a symbol for that.
I see it. I immediately think of the kids that get the ones out of the gumball machines. And then there's a primal aspect to me as a man looking at another man. I could easily choke you out with that chain if it got into a conflicted situation.
Well, that's a good point. It's very easy to take this chain off if I ever need to get in a conflict. And I'll tell you what, you better really get that choke on before an elbow hits you in the jaw, because I'm looking for the knockout with one of those, and it's going to hurt. But that being said, we don't preach violence here. By the way, I'm speaking with, what's your name again?
I think it's Bob Johnson.
Bob Johnson, and you have a podcast, Bob Johnson. What's it called?
Out of the Blank Podcast.
Out of the Blank Podcast with Big Doc Johnson. Doc Johnson is
is that the name we're going by? Do I have to play a character now?
No. I hate you can be Bobby Robertson.
No, you can't even say my name right.
No, I know. Well, you take the Robert. My father's name was Robert, and they called him Bobby. So Bobby Robertson or Robbie Robertson?
It's Robbie Robertson.
Robbie Robertson. 2 R's, double R. Did you ever get called double R any time in your life?
Yeah, actually, my teacher cracked a joke on it. One time I was like sleeping in the back of class, and he goes, "Rob," and I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You have the answer to this?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Because you're R&R, baby. You're rest and relaxation." I'm like, "Oh, you're funny, dude. I like
R&R." Yeah, well, that's a different connotation even. But double R is like a common nickname. It's kind of maybe a sportsy kind of thing, whatever. Folks.
Do I look like Michael Phelps? I do enjoy Frosted Flakes.
A little bit. And
what?
A little bit. No, you don't. Michael Phelps has almost kind of a Cro-Magnon-y kind of look. A lot of people think he's a good-looking guy.
He looks like something like someone hit him upside the head with a bat or something.
He looks a little funny. I think Ryan, I mean, I don't know which is your favorite swimmer. Ryan, we shouldn't even go here.
Jason fucking Momoa.
He's not a swimmer. He's an actor, even though
Aquaman
in that movie. No, if you had to, Michael Phelps or Ryan Lochte, who do you swim with? Who do you want to teach you the backstroke?
I like deeper waters. Jason Momoa.
Interesting. I need to be in the deep. All right.
I choose option C.
I think that's really interesting. It just doesn't veer away from that. Not even a real swimmer, folks. That being said, this episode, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it might be my 9th. It could be my 9th or my 10th. I probably should know that, shouldn't I?
They should call me Mr. Productive and how I'm trying to get you to get actual motivation into your podcast.
It is interesting that this guy, he's really very helpful to me in that regard. And but I should be dedicating more time to this, for Christ's sakes.
You got talent for it.
Yeah,
maybe take the hat off a little bit.
I got the voice. The hat sucks.
Well, you got the broadcasting voice, sir.
Well, guys, top of the 9th here. Dodgers taking on the Pirates, and up to bat is Don Rickles. Don, batting 248 on the season. Here we go. It is episode number 9. Let's shrink that down. And here we go. So what this episode is going to be about, and I think it's pretty much going to cover everything that we're going to talk about, is the Dave Chappelle special on Netflix that was just released a week or so ago, Sticks and Stones.
May break my bones, but words may never hurt me.
And this is probably why you gave it that title.
Yes.
Because comedians, at the end of the day, they're just saying words. We shouldn't take any of this, as we're going to get into this, none of this should be taken to heart the way it has been, which is really, really sad. How much credence we're giving to a comedy routine. And so that's something we can talk about as well. And I came up with some bullet points for me and Robbie to hit on. So you'll get just 2 perspectives. I actually have no idea. We have not talked about this special in any way. I don't even know if Robbie has found it funny, offensive. So this will be cool because we'll get to each find out what each other thinks as well, because we have not gone over this in any way, shape, or form to know what each other's ideas on this whole special is. I'm going to let you lead off with first and foremost. And by the way, I think you saw it more than once. So I'm going to pull up my little bullet points that I sent you.
I've seen it about 25 times probably, and I'm going to watch it again when we get done with the podcast. I enjoyed it.
That's very interesting. All right, so you're giving it a thumbs up. Why don't we let you lead off? I've been talking a lot here. What was at least your immediate opinion of the special?
Well, all right, so you wanted to get like my feelings on it when I'm watching it, I guess, would be.
Well, now that you've seen it.
Well, now that I've seen it, everything he said is true. I mean, everything he said is we take irrational choices and decisions and specifications, whatever you want to say, classifications on anything that is known as cancel culture. Cancel culture is the fact that we have things that we cannot say because it's going to offend somebody because someone's too sensitive. Let me talk to you from people I podcast with that are comedians that I podcast about the Dave Chappelle special. Mm-hmm. Now, from multiple stand-up comics going from New York all the way down to California, down to Texas, down to even the small towns, they say people, it's hard to do their art because people are so willing to put in their opinion and heckle and do these types of things because now comedians are afraid they can't play a joke because it's going to offend somebody. Someone's going to say something. There's actually a podcast that just came out recently, Two Bears, One Cave. It's two of my favorite comedians. They're big guys. But Bert Kreischer. Yeah, Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, okay?
Oh, you like these two guys?
Well, Tom Segura had a comedy special called Disgraceful, okay? This came out on Netflix. I recommend you watch it because Netflix promoted it in the wrong way. They took the wrong aspect of one of his jokes and made it seem like he was making fun of retards. He said, how come we can't say the word retarded? Damn, it was just here a minute ago. Like, we didn't used to say retard to someone that was retarded. You would just say that's retarded. Like some kid goes, I want to go to your house, and then we can go back to my house, and then afterwards we can go back to your house later. And you're like, why would we do that? That's retarded. You can't say that anymore. It's ban the R word.
Well, that happened with that's gay as well. That became
he says that too, and
break your concentration, but that became interchangeable as well. It didn't have the meaning of the word. We use it interchangeably for something that was considered stupid. You would say that, right? I mean, that's probably the biggest. All right, so good. So gay became that kind of thing as well.
He said that with retard. He said that with gay. He said that with midget. He said now you have to say little people, and you're like, what do you mean little people? With the hands. He's like, what does that mean? There was a word to classify that, and we can't say it because it offends people now. There's a difference between taking an irrational sense to something and then just going out of your way to destroy something because you're offended by it, and you really should look at that as something you need to fix in yourself. Now, he talked about this. His new special is coming out for Netflix, and he's afraid about it. He doesn't think it's going to happen now after what happened with Dave Chappelle's comedy special that just came out. He said that his is a little bit worse, but focuses around the same thing Dave Chappelle did, and he knows he's going to get a hell of a lot more shit on the concept that he is a white man. And it's true. Dave Chappelle said a lot of stuff in that special that immediately when I was hearing it, I was like, oh, he just said that. Oh, my God. But let me tell you something. Coming from listening to stand-up comics and hearing those people and someone like me that does enjoy comedy, it's a joke. He's outlining the truth. He's outlining these things that is real things that we're all really, really worried about. And we think of stigmatized, like saying like there's certain words in society we can't say. I'm like, if we do that with someone cracking a fart joke, when are we going to start realizing that there is words that you probably definitely shouldn't say in front of people? You're just going to make everything outlawed.
Let me chime in here. So, well, first of all, I asked if you liked it. So first, on a scale of 1 to 10, and you sound like you enjoy comedy as much as the next guy.
10.
And then I'll chime in about Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer personally. But what do you give it as a rating, and how do you compare it to other Chappelle specials?
10, and most of Dave Chappelle's specials are 9 or 10s for me. Actually, after I watched that one, it literally queued up next another one, and I watched that one as well. I
So
can't
you're a
remember.
big fan of Dave Chappelle going into this?
I like the Chappelle show. I mean, I think
You watched the Chappelle show?
everybody loved Rick James, bitch. You know, everyone loved that with Charlie Murphy. Charlie Murphy, what a
Yeah.
5 finger say to the face. Slap.
Right.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
loves pimp humor.
But then Dave Chappelle even talked about it in his special. He got a lot of flack from people that canceled the Dave Chappelle show, where he ended up going to Africa after it and literally going over there and just seeing a whole different culture, and then coming back and realizing that there's something wrong here. You know what I mean?
Well,
We're seeing irrational choices and making justifications on things because we're just too sensitive.
if you want to, there's a couple of good videos with Cat Williams talking about Dave Chappelle, another brilliant comedian, probably even funnier than Dave Chappelle.
Cat Williams is just fucking crazy. I don't like.
Well, he is crazy. I mean, Cat Williams he's got a drug. He's dealt with drug issues that Dave Chappelle hasn't dealt with. And yeah, he's definitely off the chain and a little erratic, a little out of control, but very funny. And he's way more offensive in his past and more poignant. Dave Chappelle, while I like Dave Chappelle a lot, I'm very surprised at the level that people put Dave Chappelle on. First of all, Dave Chappelle has a lot of white fans. So let's make it clear that Dave Chappelle's fame has hit a level because Eddie Murphy was loved by white people. Richard Pryor was loved by white people. He's not really a full black comic. White people, because of Half Baked, jumped on a Dave Chappelle a long time ago, and they never let go of him. He did a lot of college tours, and a lot of white people went to this guy's shit. Now, the Comedy Central thing, he does 2 seasons. Comedy Central goes to him, and I don't know if you know any of this, and I'm just going to go over it for the show if you don't, but he was offered $50 million to re-sign with them and I think and do a contract with them. I can't remember how many years. It's not important. What he found out was that his DVD sales and what he made Comedy Central was like $500 million. And he's like, you're trying to give me fucking 10% of what I made you, and that's a problem. So Dave Chappelle passed on that $50 million. And that's when he went to Africa. And the rumor was that Dave Chappelle also was probably told, you have to join the Illuminati. If we give you this money, we fucking own you. Cat Williams talked about this. And that he would have to sell his soul. This is part of what you have to do to be indoctrinated into this group of people. And everybody's more than willing to do it. And Dave Chappelle wouldn't. And Dave Chappelle went to Africa. And Dave Chappelle cleared his soul and his mind. And he came back better than ever. He's a family man. He's a married man. You never hear Dave Chappelle's name in the media for cheating, for drugs, for fucking around, nothing. Think about that. In this cancel culture, gotcha, we want to fuck you over culture, this guy has stayed remarkably clean. Give him credit for that because he is a target. He's a black man.
Well, it all started with, I mean, the beginning, first of all. The reviews on it from people that are hating this and really want to attack him, they think like they've reviewed it as being misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, whatever. Just downright worst comedy special. And I was like, you're not seeing it in a radical aspect. The fact was he led off with a really, really kind of sketchy subject to even start off a comedy special, especially at the beginning. I don't know if you remember, but he talks about the joke about 2 men who made sexual abuse allegations against Michael Jackson.
Well, can we get to that in a second? Because what I actually did to make this really cool for us, I pulled up a transcript of it that somebody did, so I can just zoom through category by category of what he did. Because the first thing he did, but let me just wrap up one thing, because then you talked about Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. I don't find them that funny. Bert Kreischer resorts to taking his shirt off during his act for some reason, so he's going for some sort of shtick there. There's no comedians fucking doing that.
Well, Bert Kreischer is the reason why that movie Van Wilder is a thing. They actually
I thought that was terrible. So
they structured that off his life, but he's more famous to be known as the Machine, about his story in Russia where he got drunk and ended up robbing on a train with a bunch of Russian people.
Interesting. I'm sure he's an interesting guy. I just don't find their comedy that funny personally. But that being said, they're extremely popular and people do like them, and they got a bunch of Netflix specials between them. I agree with Tom Segura being nervous that because he's white, and that's one of the bullet points we'll talk about. I'd like to go over this subject by subject as quickly as we can, or however you want to do it. So let's break this down. First of all, I asked you also your opinion of it, my opinion of it as well. I would give it a 9 or a 10. I don't find it as offensive as everybody else did. I think that he's a truth teller. Comedy is about perspective of the comedian, and not everyone's going to share that perspective. You're paying to go hear his perspective because you like this person's personality. You're not there to necessarily agree with it. And all these people from outside in the peanut gallery who they're there to be critics on their websites or a website that they write for. They got to write something. It's easy to shit on this because, yeah, he went after a lot of PC stuff. We're very PC. This is all about George Carlin, which we talked about before, buddy. This all goes back to George Carlin, who people would really not like now. Dave, if this is edgy, then they have no idea because Richard Pryor, Andrew Dice Clay, I can come up with Lenny Bruce. There's 20 comedians that are dirtier or edgier than this guy. I mean, famous ones, not just holes in the wall, nobodies. So that being said, he's catching a gang of shit because we're in that kind of world now where everybody's got a bitch about something. And like you said, it was the misogyny, it was the homophobia, the this and that. So first thing he talks about is he tells the buddy, first he talks about Anthony Bourdain committing suicide. Doesn't focus too much on that. And then does the anecdote about the buddy who he tells him, that bitch can wait. Why are you getting married? That bitch can wait. And then the punchline was, it fucked his whole life up. She took half from him. I mean, that's where we got right off on the bat was it was kind of anti-women. You know, this whole Me Too movement couldn't have been too excited. And then his little punchline was, but it never occurred for himself for this motherfucker to kill himself like Anthony Bourdain. By the way, I don't believe Anthony Bourdain killed himself. You can Google all sorts of shit about that. It's like Dave Chappelle said, how does this dude who is at the top of his life, making the most money he's ever had, beautiful 8-year-old daughter, beautiful girlfriend, fucking everybody he wants, you know what I mean? He's getting on CNN. He's rubbing elbows with major people in politics. His show is going as good as possible. Huge following on social media. And you kill yourself? Oh, I left out. He beat drug addiction and alcohol abuse too. Wouldn't that be when you killed yourself? Or would you do it when you're clean? I have a hard time believing you do it when you're clean.
I think the problem is when you're infused with alcohol, depression it kind of gets put away a little bit. It's an antidepressant for a reason. And when you're off alcohol and having a sober lifestyle, that depression, it doesn't matter if you have the happiest life in the world. Robin Williams suffered from it too. It's the whole concept.
It was different.
It's hard to get that monkey off your back.
You're right, but here's the difference. Robin Williams was not successful anymore. Robin Williams expressed, I've had people bring this up. They're not the same. Robin Williams was a has-been. He was very upset that he had to make Mrs. Doubtfire 2, which he signed on to do. That was in pre-production. People didn't know that. He dreaded having to do it. He missed the fact that he was a monster movie star pretty much from the late 70s, early 80s. TV star Mork and Mindy had his own fucking show right away. Stand-up comic, movie star. This guy was his A-list.
You're comparing his professional career. He was happy in another way, which you can relate to as being a father.
Absolutely, but he had. See why it's different from Anthony Bourdain. I feel as Anthony Bourdain had it all. It was very hard to find any negative situation except what was in his head.
It just shows you that you can have it all and still not.
Robin Williams was broke. He didn't make $20 million anymore. He was upset about that, is what I'm saying. His career was what upset him. And the other thing that was talked about that a lot of people don't know, and that was that he supposedly, and you can research this because I did and saw it, he had early onset Parkinson's. He was a heavy cocaine user and partier. So Robin Williams may have fucked his brain up a little bit along the way. And he was dealing with a physical ailment that he may not have been ready to completely deal with. I don't believe Robin Williams was happy on that level. Anthony Bourdain was at the height of success, and I don't believe that Robin Williams was at the height of his success anymore. He was on the downslope. But again, it's just, we'll never know. We'll never know. Chris Cornell, I have a hard time with that. Chester Bennington, I had a hard time with that. So I don't think these people just kill themselves. Suicide, as much as it's higher than ever before, it's still an extremely, extremely rare feat. I don't know if you know that or really understand how rare it is. And when celebrities do it, it's even more rare. And just to be able to say, well, he was depressed. Go look up Kurt Cobain, man. That motherfucker didn't kill himself. That motherfucker did not kill himself. Another guy who
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain. She knew he was going to divorce her, and she wanted that Nirvana money for life, which she got.
Jimi Hendrix, music producer, is the one that killed him.
Yeah. So these people don't just do that shit, man. I'm sorry. Going back to Chappelle. So then here's where it gets really good. And this is, we glanced over. He does his impressions, and I'd like to hear your opinion on when he calls out the audience. First, he does the first impression, blah, blah, blah. And then he does the duh, and he basically insults the audience, to which they clap and cheer. Once he even tells them, it's you. Oh, by the way, the Trump. How many people called out Trump when he was doing the imitation? How fucking stupid was that? So they think it's Trump, and then he tells you, it's you. That's what the audience sounds like to me. That's why I don't be coming out doing comedy all the time, because y'all N-words is the worst motherfuckers I've ever had to entertain in my fucking life. And they clapped for it. That was the first sign. That was the cancel culture. Fuck you. And even you motherfuckers in my crowd. What was your thought on that?
Well, he was just highlighting a true part that you can't. It's all audience attention. It's all it is. It's all you clap for something because you're not hearing it. You're not listening. You're not paying attention anymore. You're just there like, a joke happened. And it's like, no, you don't understand. You're not hearing what I'm saying. And he outlined that in the beginning. And then he had to really try and wake motherfuckers up with the shit he had to say.
So, yeah, I thought it was really cool that he took them to task because that is what happened. He then goes into the Michael Jackson routine. Okay, so the Michael Jackson thing was, I guess you could say, for some people, that the Michael Jackson thing was offensive, right? Like that was the first. People didn't really have a problem with it as much, but they definitely, you realize at this point, this is where it got pretty offensive. And he doesn't believe the accusers. Did you happen to see the Michael Jackson documentary, Leaving Neverland?
I did see a little bit of it. I'm not a huge Michael Jackson fan. So
right.
I'm also not against him in any way. I think, people are people. They're into some weird shit. If you like doing that stuff with kids, is it going to stop you from listening to his music? I don't think it should.
No, I don't think it has for a lot of people. He has a lot of defenders. I saw the documentary.
A lot of people stopped listening to Bill Cosby because of all that stuff
Sure.
that came out. And I'm like, you enjoyed his comedy before you knew that happened. Just because you found out what he was or what he was doing, does that going to change your view on comedy? No, you should still understand when something's funny and realize when it's a joke. If someone wants to play a character on stage, you're playing a character on stage.
You have the boycotting thing. Yeah. Cancel Bill Cosby out of your life.
You need to understand. I think we need to take more time into understanding what is meant to be funny for a reason and what is meant to be something we should look at. Like a lot of people, Dave Chappelle talks about it, Jim Gaffigan and all these other comedians that say stuff that seem to follow around like a no cursing type boundary and all these types of things. And then also sticking on to the fact that he brought up Louis C.K. and how people are outraged about him for what he did. And I was like, people are fucking people. People do weird shit. They play a character on stage and they play a character in life because sadly we're at the point now we're too afraid to be our true selves anymore because we think everyone's going to think of us as some fucking monster. And that turns us into these people that are so angry and suppressed that we do this freaky shit. And then we see it as like, oh my God, if that ever gets out. And next thing you know, one day you're just like, fuck it. And you jack off. And the next thing you know, you're turned to a Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. really got a really shitty end of this stick. By the way, I think Louis C.K. is extremely funny. Now that's a comedian I like. And he's way more offensive than Dave Chappelle. I mean, all of his stand-up.
Louis C.K.
My God.
I didn't find his comedy that funny. But
really?
I found it really funny when he made fun of a heckler and called her like the C word. And I was like, oh shit.
Louis C.K. was funny. He's got an interesting his comedy is very interesting. Listen, this guy's so off the wall that he does comedy about his kids in like a negative fashion. Like he cracks on his own kids and nobody's doing that, man. He basically talks about like being a father sucks and like all sorts of shit. And he's a very realist. Like he is the guy in the basement that, that was on the computer kind of thing. You think of him. He's a miserable fucker. but he's written for everybody. Very funny guy. He's been a part of everything. I think he's great. And his show, his comedy, he had a show on FX that was really funny. It was very Seinfeld-esque. I mean, there was very little to the plot line. It was just weird scenarios and the characters and all that. And it was very dry. But going back to him getting fucked, like Dave Chappelle said, Louis C.K. did not do anything that broke the law in any way for him to lose his career, because he really got it bad. He didn't rape anybody. He didn't push up on anybody. It wasn't unwanted advances. He did some weird shit. It was his room, they said, and nobody left. He told everybody, I'm going to do this. And then he gets in on the back end. I fucking hate that. I fucking hate that, because it's like you waited for it to put it in your back pocket so you can use it later, and probably sold it to some fucking rag for $20,000 to crack on Louis C.K. He got it bad, man. And a lot of people use him as the example of, when does it end for him? Who's the arbiter of when he's allowed to have his career back? That's the other fascinating question here. Or you never do. Is that the cancel culture's end result? You are fucking finished, done forever. And who's the arbiter of that? And shame on us for doing that to anybody who didn't break a law. They want to let fucking felons vote. Not a problem there. You could be a rehabilitated murderer, right? I mean, you're allowed to get out of jail and have a life, right? So I don't quite understand it. And what I really don't understand, whenever I talk about misogyny or any of this shit, I just don't understand how rappers get away with this in their lyrics, in their life, in everything, and they get a free pass because as long as they're a rapper, you seem to be able to just, it's almost understood that you're going to be this way. How come? I don't quite understand how that is the double standard.
The gangster life stereotype, man.
Yeah, I'm very, that was one of the things I always had a hard time with. Going back to the show, he talks about so I saw the Michael Jackson thing, by the way, and to give my opinion on that, I agree with Dave Chappelle. Yeah, he probably did do this. And he's like, so what? So here's the thing. I find myself to be a victim blamer sometimes as well. And these kids, I do not call victims. I am sorry. I have a hard time buying anybody that goes back 20-something times as a victim. I'm sorry. I wouldn't get into 20 car accidents in a row, would you?
Wait, what do you mean by going back 20-something times?
Well, these kids had multiple experiences with Michael. Like, they were constantly traveling with him. It was like a way of life. The parents sold these kids out, okay? They went for the glitz and the glamour. So it's, it's not like this guy's doing something against their will. He's taking advantage of them because they're young. It reminds me a lot of the Epstein thing. I'm not understanding when the girl gets on the Learjet for the 19th time that this is against her fucking will. But and people would argue with me over that.
Dave Chappelle cracked the best joke. He said, you got raped by the king of pop. You should
exactly.
be happy.
Yeah, you don't think that was an honor? That was an honor. I mean, like you said, half that audience had been molested.
You play at my amusement park called Neverland, you're going to get a little bit messed with. Sorry.
The parents knew exactly what was going on. They stayed in the hotel room alone with Michael while the mom's down the fucking hallway. Come on, man. Privacy with Michael? Why would you do that with any guy? With anybody? How's that? Would you do that with anybody?
We put too much trust in other people.
Well, I wouldn't let my kid do that. But when he's buying you presents and taking you to the Waldorf Astoria, it's just, these parents sold their souls for these kids. They sold their kids' buttholes or whatever this guy did. He liked to look at buttholes and masturbate. That was one thing that he was very big on. So he had a thing. Jumps then to R. Kelly. Does some stuff about R. Kelly and Dream Hampton. That why would Dave Chappelle have any real commentary? He just did an R. Kelly skit. So he was, he made a good point in talking about, like, what do I got to fucking be on here? This, I got nothing to say on this that matters. I don't even know R. Kelly. He made a good point of saying, like, I don't know this motherfucker. And then goes into the celebrity hunting, he goes in about Kevin Hart. And this is where the Louis C.K. thing is. He sticks up for two of his buddies. Now, let me tell you, my friend, the Kevin Hart one. I personally don't find Kevin Hart all that funny.
I don't either. All right, cool.
But I do salute that he is good, catering to the lowest common denominator and the masses, and just the people that love he's a silly guy, and his delivery's fun and silly, and he's a little dude, and people love him, and he's black, and they love that too. And he's done a very good job at what he's done, and they fucked him. This Oscar thing was an embarrassment, and he was a very, very clear example of this cancel culture thing running amok, because he's just a fucking regular laid back guy, man. This isn't the guy. You had to dig 10 years back for him to talk some shit. And this is where then Dave starts using the FAG word, and he feels very comfortable with that. I fully believe that Dave Chappelle isn't the biggest fan of a lot of these folks for some reason. He says he's got friends of all kinds. Yeah, I'm sure he's got friends of all kinds because he's got a whole lot of people. He's fucking famous. There's a whole lot of people that this guy comes across in his life and does shit with. So of course he's gonna have gay people that are in his life. Well, I mean, there's a lot of gay people. More gay people now than ever before. It's an accepted lifestyle. He's in Hollywood. He is famous, and so of course he is going to have people that he is friends with from all walks of life. I mean, that doesn't deserve a pat on the back. I think that kind of almost goes without saying. Now, if you lived in a small town in Missouri and you could say that, that's another story. And that's where he goes into, and I'd like your opinion now. He goes into this is probably one of the best skits of the whole thing, because it was very well, I thought it was very poignant and very well done, was the alphabet people, and talking about how everyone has their own agenda. They're just traveling in one car together, because it's true. They don't all share the same thing in common of what they are or what they identify with in this case. And tell me what you thought about how he broke that down with the whole LGBT in the car, and and how he kind of personified these people with stereotype wise.
The one lyric that always popped into my head most of the time I was listening to Dave Chappelle was, "Believe it or not, I'm walking on air."
Why?
Because he's like literally
God.
So free when that was happening, like talking about the LGBTQ, whatever the hell you want to call committee.
LGBTQ.
I have a respect for them. I really do. I believe, just because I podcasted with someone who is transgender, and I can tell you right now, he watched that comedy special, and I asked his opinion on it, and he said it was fucking awesome. And
It should, even for a transgender, it should be funny.
I was like, even though when he said that you're like the guy in the car that says stuff and everyone just tells you to shut the fuck up, like you're looking out the window, I need to use the bathroom. Shut the fuck up. There ain't a bathroom for you for
4 states.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, even that was funny to you? And like, yeah, because it's comedy. You got to understand when you need to be rational about something. And when you see something as meant to be comedy, it's meant to be funny. It's not supposed to be an attack on anything. People take it in the wrong way. I said, that really opened my eyes to that, because I thought you would be completely offended by the way he said that. And he goes, no, I enjoy comedy. And
you should be able to laugh at your own stereotypes.
Exactly.
You ever seen black comics? That's all they hit on is black stereotypes and white stereotypes and Asian stereotypes. It's a big thing that they like to do.
That's actually why black comics like to get on stage first, because they want to highlight the whole, like, what it's like to be black. I'm like,
yeah, they're playing the whole thing as a stereotype. If you notice, black comics for the most part don't do observational comedy as much. They focus on black stereotypes because the black audience loves that. They eat it up. At the end of the day, it's about making them people laugh and putting butts in seats and making money. You don't have to be highbrow. Everybody's not going to be highbrow. Black comics love identifying the stereotypes, and like you said, how motherfuckers be doing this or doing that. And listen, white people do it too, but I think there's a lot more white observational comedy, because Jerry Seinfeld didn't do stereotypes that much. He hit on them. You know what I mean? Well, you ever notice that at the restaurant? Okay, but it was very observational more. Gay people should be able to laugh at themselves, even if it's not a gay person telling the joke. If it's fucking true and it's funny, roll with it. Trans people should be able to laugh at these things. You are the most complicated amongst the gay, lesbian, bisexual community. Do you know why? You're the one going through the most shit. You're the one that's having a hard time even identifying with yourself. The gay people know what the fuck they are, and they know what they like. They like dick. The lesbians know what they are, and they know what they like. They like pussy. And the bi people, which he made fun of as the gross ones, they like it all. The one most likely to have an STD because they fuck everybody. They're probably a lot of bisexual people, if they really are probably hypersexual, goes along with it. Now, that's why he did the trans joke. No one's fucking getting that. Every one of the people that identify as that should be able to laugh at that. And it's very sad that you can't. And by the way, that's why the joke is on you, because you take yourself so seriously. You're so wrapped up in your identitarianism and what you are, gay, trans, whatever it is, you can't even laugh at it. And that's fucking ridiculous. You know what I mean?
They say,
Huh?
wake me up before you go.
Don't leave me hanging on to something so low. I don't know how it went.
That was funny that was an okay song. It was actually pretty catchy. And then you find out it's made by gay people. And like, my dad was like, "What? Wait a minute. Are you gay?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, that's a gay song, right?" I'm like,
is that how your dad thought?
I'm like, "Wait a minute. What does that have to do?" He goes,
"You support Wham."
It doesn't mean you're gay, but that's a popular gay song. I'm like, what? And I figured out it was like a theme song for the gay community. I was like, oh shit.
It may have had gay overtones. The song was so big on pop radio that nobody gave a shit. That's why they
made fun of it in Zoolander. Like, I saw it from Zoolander.
Oh, it's gay as fuck. George.
They're all spraying each other with gasoline and stuff and dancing and stuff.
Well, that's because Wham was gay. The singers were gay. And yeah, I think it had a gay fan base. I think everyone gay liked George Michael, but he crossed over to where he was pretty popular with everybody. There's another one that was really gay too before that song. And it was relax, don't do it when you want to go to it, relax. That's Frankie Goes to Hollywood. He actually died of AIDS.
It was the mind control song, bro.
Well, the 80s, when those songs came out, and I believe they were both in the 80s was the boom of AIDS. That was when it became a real issue that we were dealing with as a society.
Yeah, I've heard people that were like kind of older when that was happening. They were like that. They thought that was it. They thought since Magic Johnson got AIDS, everybody was done. It was going to turn to like the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that scared people because so AIDS was always kind of pigeonholed into drug addicts and gay people were most prevalent to get AIDS. Then there was a theory that it was put in the black community on purpose to kill them. I think they felt that black people were more promiscuous and they didn't protect themselves. You can go do the research on that. If you think that that's not true, I dare you to defy it. But the black community has an AIDS problem. They still do to this day. They have an inordinate amount of HIV, more than white people, but it also, I think, affects their system. They don't fight it as well. It's actually a genetic problem for them. So the people that were getting AIDS most prevalently were gay people, black people, and drug addicts. That's why the first celebrity that you heard on any major level that came out was Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson admitted he was fucking everybody. He was a basketball player. Surprise! They do a lot of fucking, these guys. And yeah, it was a very strange time on how people then started to feel about it. While we have it under more control now, it still is more prevalent in certain communities. And, you can do what you want with that information. Going back to Chappelle. So he goes, then he gets the phone call. They interrupt the show, which he's very big against. Everyone's supposed to have their cell phones taken. How that person even got it through was kind of weird because he's very, very strict about that. So he goes through the LGBT, the gay thing, whatever, and he's going through that. And then this was a funny one. He talked about it. So he does then the offensive Chinese he does. So he imitates what it would be like to be a Chinese man. Identify. What's your motto? It's how I feel.
I love that shit.
That was hilarious.
Die laughing.
That's fucking hilarious. And if you're Chinese, here's the thing. If Joe Coy did that joke, you're laughing. If Dave Chappelle does that joke, you're not sure if it's funny. And that's bullshit. Same fucking joke. Don't give the pass based on the person. That's one of our problems too. That's a double standard, man. And I don't like those. Funny as shit. And it's true. That's how he identified. You know what I mean? I identify as that. So that was funny as shit.
His face when he did that.
Oh, it's so great. So great. So great. So great. Hilarious. One of the best parts as well.
He had to rationalize it with, I have an Asian wife. And
yes, he did. Sugarcoat a little bit. A little bit.
Just fucking crack.
And then he brings up LeBron James. He talks about how would we handle this? LeBron James, if he got a sex change, which would be funny as fuck. Are you kidding me? Like, if Kanye West, I mean, we can come up with 100 celebrities that would be so far-fetched. Jason Momoa, for that example. That would be hilarious.
Stop. Stop it now.
Jason Momoa decides he's just not comfortable being Aquaman. He has to be Aquawoman.
He's always been a mermaid.
Yes, a merman. And so he talked about the LeBron James thing. Very, very funny. And then he goes into the Louis C.K. thing. And then he brought up another interesting point. He said to them, and I have said this to people, so when I heard it, I thought it was crazy. He talked about how from the Me Too movement backfired. He says exactly. In fact, the opposite happened. I said it was going to get worse, and they said I was tone deaf. But 8 states, including your state, Georgia, have passed the most stringent anti-abortion laws this nation has seen since Roe versus Wade. I told you, I'll be real with you. I know no one gives a fuck what I think anyways. I'm not for abortion. And then he goes into a little thing like that. But that's exactly what happened. They pushed and they pushed and they pushed. 3rd trimester, kill your baby whenever you want, kill it after, kill it the day before, don't make a decision. And they pushed and pushed, and look what happened. And guess what's also going to happen? If Ruth Bader Ginsburg, little history note for you, buddy, Donald Trump has already put in 2 Supreme Court judges, which is a lot. These people are lifetime appointees. They don't go anywhere. They have to really leave for a reason. If Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if Donald Trump wins re-election, and he's going to, she's not going to last. She's not going to last. I'd love to hear your opinion on who you think is going to win. She will not make it. Her health.
Politics. That's my opinion. I don't care who runs the country. Nobody does it right. We're all we got to understand that, you got to do your own stuff.
This is true. That's why they had to find somebody that wasn't a piece of shit politician. That's how we wound up with this guy. Piece of shit guy. Real asshole motherfucker. Vain, paper thin, insulting, baby, all that shit. Definitely fucked with the Illuminati, fucked with the system, the deep state, the swamp. They had her winning, and he fucked them.
Too many questions is what we need as president. That's what they say. Who doesn't ask all the questions, and who can we pay off to keep their eyes shut blindly and just talk to the people?
Yeah, well, this ain't that guy. Remember, this guy ain't bought and paid for by anybody. They like to say Russia. They've had 4 years to prove it. It's not happening so far. But that being said, the anti-abortion, he goes after Georgia, talks about that, sticks that in their face, which was very interesting as well. Talks a little bit about his son, how rich they are, that he has a $12,000 suit. The son has duck grease on his face. The joke is, for people that don't understand, duck is expensive food and only rich people eat duck. And
I've
Asian
never
people.
had duck in my life.
Yeah, avoid it. It's one of the best scenes. Have you ever seen A Christmas Story?
Yeah.
At the
That's
end.
Goose, though. That's
Deck
Goose.
the halls with boughs of holly. Oh, it's a goose?
Yes.
Rah, rah, rah. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Rah, 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 rah,
My dad still
rah,
cracks
rah,
up at that every time it pops up.
I
That can't even be
love
done
that movie.
today in a movie.
No.
That cannot happen.
I agree.
Wait,
Well,
hold on. Wait, it's Asian stereotypes. So technically, we can still do that. People don't look at Asian stereotypes.
They don't care about them. Isn't it funny? Only certain stereotypes.
Yeah, and it's really weird that the fact
Indian
that Harvard raised their freaking admission for Asian students higher because they were experiencing a high number of Asian kids that were going to the school. So they actually made it more difficult for them to get in. Their IQ level has to be a hell of a lot higher.
They sued over this. This was discrimination against Asians to let more black students in. This is nuts. So it's not even about white racism. They'll fuck the Asians too, because yes, they were all getting in. And then they started saying, well, they're not friendly enough. And they put these weird point systems on them. It's so fucking sad, man. Even the Asians are getting fucking fucked with some of this shit because they're too smart or they're not, we can't give them a handout or whatever. I think that's fucking ridiculous.
There should be a meme where it's a white person and they're complaining like, my life is hard, I'm a white man. And then it should be like a picture of like a slave and it should be like, oh, your life is hard. And then it's a freaking next picture is like a picture of an Asian person. He's like, fuck both of you guys.
Yeah. And then there's a picture next to that and it's a guy with spina bifida. And he's like, does anybody want to ask me how I feel?
Or a gluten intolerance. That guy that's allergic to gluten.
Okay.
He's just sitting
I don't
there
know
in
what
the
that is. That a bad thing? A gluten intolerance. That's a made up fucking thing. Ask George Carlin about gluten, what his opinion on that would
Nobody
be.
even knows what gluten is. It's
Fucking
just
made
there.
up. It's fucking
It makes
made
you
up.
feel bad.
Yeah. Didn't it was everyone was doing fine for all these years. It's amazing. And then he gets into another funny part. He gets into the school shooter drill. And this is again got a little offensive to everybody, I guess. Son, you're gonna get shot, you're famous, this and that, talks about this. And then he made a good point. They're going over all these drills with these kids. And for what? You think in that panic mode that anyone's going to follow some protocol, kids fucking shooting up a school. And they say it's just going to scare them that this is a possibility that is so infinitely not going to happen except to the 0.00001%. You know what I mean? Think about how many days of school go by and how many schools there are in this country and how many school shootings there were. Now, they're all bad. But if you divided that days of school by total number of schools, you got to now take that number and divide that by total incidents, bro. That percentage is fucking smaller than Vern Troyer's dick. Okay?
Damn.
Yeah. It's small. Secret, he was small. He made a very good point too that I have brought up before as well. He said, we got to be serious. Every able-bodied African American must register for a legal firearm. That's the only way they'll change the law. Well, here's the bad news, Dave Chappelle. They're not going to do that, because I've always made a joke when people talk about getting rid of guns. About getting rid of guns, and that is, do you know black folks that own guns? They own them at, I'm going to guess, at a 98% illegal clip, or they just don't own a gun. The number of legal gun ownership by black Americans is really, really low. Do you understand? Because they live in cities that, first of all, don't allow a lot of gun ownership, like New York City and Chicago and things like that. So most of your African American and urban communities are in places where they forbid guns. And a lot of the people that live in those communities that have guns are not getting them in the legal way. First of all, even white Americans, the number's small, but the black community does not have legal firearms. That's for sure. And he's funny, and then he says that it might change the law. It wouldn't, but it's never going to be a threat anyway, so we don't got to even worry about that hypothetical. And then he goes and talks about Ohio and then the heroin and the white people. And one of the things I keep hearing about the critics is they talk about how they think everything he explains in this really happened or is real. And this is also where these people are very childish or delusional or stupid. I don't know what's the best way to describe this, but comedians make shit up. They embellish in shit. All Hollywood movies do the same thing. Even movies based on a true story or based on factual events.
Well, that's how you craft a bit. That's how you craft something that works.
Yeah, it's an embellishment. For people to not understand that, because that's one of the criticisms here actually he was getting, was people were taking this as if all of this was 100% truthful, even the heroin story or whatever. He told a story about the baby when he was in the limo and how the baby threw the rock or whatever. And, he's about with the baby at the limo. That didn't fucking happen. I don't remember everybody thinking like, wow, did that really happen with that baby? Was that something that really happened at night? I mean, come on, man. Just so stupid. He goes and talks. So he goes into the heroin thing. And then he talks about that he also owns a gun. First gun I owned was the shotgun. And then he talks about some gun stuff. And then he goes into the Juicy Smollett. First of all, what's your opinion on Juicy Smollett?
I've never seen his show or whatever he's involved in, but hearing
not either.
Him cry out about two white guys beating him up about a MAGA hat and put a noose around his neck, and then you find out it's two of, like Dave Chappelle said it best, it was two Nigerian guys, two of the blackest people ever.
Yes. I also, when he imitated their accents, like, fuck you, Donald Trump, fuck you, whatever he's in. I always thought to myself when this was a story, how come nobody's asking if he noticed that they had distinct accents. Like there's no way once we knew that this was even a possibility, these weren't white people and that they wore white face under their ski masks and all that, which also would look very funny. It wouldn't look like a white person at all. It would look like white makeup quite clearly. How come nobody and no media, never did I ever hear anyone say that, how come there's no way for them to cover up an accent. They could cover their faces. They could wear white paint around their eyes, but they couldn't cover up a Nigerian accent when they were talking all this shit to him. It was quite clear that these were black people. You know what I'm saying? And foreign at that. And nobody touched upon that.
You get more traction, though, if they're white and you're a different color. Because it's seen as a racist.
Well, that's what the whole,
see a whole bunch of communities stand up for you.
Well, that's what the whole lie was about. This was to touch off a racial situation. MAGA hat, noose around the neck. It was so irresponsible. And Dave Chappelle, boy, he hit it on the head. He said, oh, we had his back with silence because we knew this motherfucker was lying. And everybody knew this motherfucker was lying. What was crazy is that he perpetuated this lie in the first place. What was your fucking goal here? On a side note, he's not getting away with this. He embarrassed the city. He embarrassed the police force, who took away a lot of necessary manpower and finances that could have gone to other people, real crimes that they focused on his because he is a celebrity. They pretty much admitted that. So they want to stick him with the bill. But his stupid ass lawyer and him are fighting this every step of the way. And then you find out that Kim Fox, I believe that's her name, who absolved herself of the trial of the situation, find out that Kim Fox is tied in with Michelle Obama, very close, and that Michelle Obama's personal assistant, and I forget her name, it's an Asian woman, was the liaison to Kim Fox and had all the charges dropped. Because that was really some crazy shit to have this guy just everything dropped. This reeked also of like an Epstein. This was like, are we fucking serious? Now, it wasn't a series of crime or whatever, but it was another one of these privileged situations where this guy's getting off from this. This is a serious fucking problem. This guy was trying to trigger a race war. You know what I mean? And it's funny because Chappelle asked the same fucking questions that I asked too. 2 in the morning? 2 in the morning? And then it was the same thing I thought. It's negative 16 degrees. What are you fucking talking about? Does anyone believe that? And then you're going out for Subway. First of all, motherfucker, this guy's got money. Guess what they got out there? They got DoorDash.
Did he actually mean the restaurant there, or are they talking about the Subway?
No, he was going for sandwiches. That's why even Dave Chappelle does the copy. He's like, sandwiches? He was going to Subway for food, he said.
Nothing beats a $5 foot long.
Motherfucker.
Nothing beats a $5 foot long at 2 o'clock in the morning, man.
Yeah, that's it. You mean if Jason Momoa is ringing your doorbell? What I'm talking about is nobody goes out in negative 16 for a tuna fish. I don't care what sandwich you like. You wouldn't do that in negative 16.
I'd do it for a fucking grilled cheese. Are you kidding me?
Why wouldn't you have gotten the grilled cheese at midnight? Why would you go out at 3 in the morning and get this?
Because maybe I fell asleep for an hour and missed the midnight thing.
Well, fair enough. But fair enough. But here's where it also is fake. And Chappelle hit on this too. They asked him, "Are you that fucking the FAG from Empire?" You didn't, and like they identified him. Here's the news: those white dudes wouldn't know that. They wouldn't know that. But here's what nobody also pointed out that I was like, this is very logical, and I've never heard this pointed out. You're telling us that there were 2 white guys with a noose waiting for you, or they were waiting for anybody? Was this supposed to happen strictly to you, or were they looking for the first black person they could do this to? Because how would they know he was going out for a sandwich? How would they know to be waiting outside for him? Any strangers? Let that sink in for a second. If this was random, how did they know he would be out there at that time if it wasn't a setup or something he was a part of? How would 2 white guys, let's say this was real, right? Robbie Robertson from Out of the Blank podcast. How would they know that he would be out there at that time? They wouldn't. So you're saying that this was random, or they singled you out and nobody ever asked that? It was just, oh, they saw me and they immediately asked me if I'm who I am and they attacked me. That was it. Why would these white dudes be watching Empire? They're not. MAGA fans watching Empire? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
not happening.
Making me think about it a little bit more.
So those were questions that never got asked. He definitely, at the end of the day, he faked this and he thought he would get away with it. And then his black, they're Ethiopian, I think. I was gonna say the black guys, but more specifically the Ethiopian guys, they turned on him and they got absolved of all charges for any of their participation because they turned on him. And they're like, not only is we were in on this guy fucking paid us to do this. Oh, and by the way, he lies about our contacts with him. They get this guy dope, they found out, because he was using all sorts of fucking code words and buying shit from them on Venmo, and he was buying his fucking drugs from them. Ecstasy, coke, pot, blah, blah, blah. So not a good guy and a fucking liar. Bing bong, liar.
All for attention.
And he fucked that whole show up because apparently that show was very popular, and now that show's fucking done. And all the idiots on that show had his back too. Fucking Terrence Howard and whatever.
I thought he made it real true when he talked about the network and all that.
Yeah. So we go from Joshi Smollett, and he then talks about the big dance. Can his son go to the dance? There's change in the jar. And he pretty much ends it on that note. So I thought it was funny.
It was a great comedy special, dude.
I laughed a lot. Mm-hmm.
That was, anybody can really enjoy that, whether you're part of the people that he made fun of or not. He's making fun of everybody. It wasn't like he made fun of us too. You know, it wasn't a whole thing. It was making fun of just people in general and how far we take something and condemn something without truly understanding that, like, it's a joke. It's meant to be that for a reason. It's not meant to be hateful. It's not meant to be something, but it's meant to outlie these outrageous stereotypes that we consider, and we live our lives and try and structure our life by, you can't say this, you can't say that. If you outlaw it like that, if you do some authoritative, suppressive type shit, you know what happens? It's going to make people want to do it even more.
I don't think just because you make jokes about something, you hate it. You just find it funny. It's the equivalent of, you ever seen somebody fall down in a public place or something like that? Or they love, especially fat people. So you ever seen a fat person fall down? Do people laugh at it? Of course they do. Nobody hates them. They just find it funny. Somebody slips and falls, whatever. Some bum finds that funny. Farting is funny. So there's different things that people find funny. It doesn't mean they hate the subject. They just found humor in it. And it's very sad that people can't laugh at themselves. And they can't laugh at somebody observing things that are actually true. And this is why we have a cancel culture. This is why he's attacking the cancel culture, because we have a cancel culture. How about that? That's a fucking term. How about that? We are so unhappy with ourselves, which you've talked about before. What's that term you always use? Oh, I can't remember. But we're so unhappy with ourselves.
We're wearing a mask, bro.
Huh?
We're wearing a mask. People are showing a character because they're afraid of their true self.
Absolutely. And people, for anybody to get off, especially now with social media and Twitter being the most guilty of this, allowing for this platform to just fuck people over and end their careers over something you didn't like, this tiny little vocal group didn't like, is sad. We've run amok, and you want a little bit of power because you have none. You have no power at work. You have no power under your roof. You have no power anywhere in your life. But this is where you can go on Twitter and exhibit it and call for someone's boycott or whatever and try to ruin their career and join others in doing it. You're not going to do it yourself. You'll find a camaraderie with others that think like you. And it's really sad and it's really fucked up. And they're trying to do it to Dave Chappelle as a result of this. So not only is there imagine the irony of the juxtaposition of the fucking situation here is that he's talking about it, singling the people out about it, and now he's getting the repercussions of it, which is they want him canceled, which is why when I go, let's see here. I'm going to open Netflix up again. Okay. All right, everybody. So they can see. Travis Scott. See that? Okay. So there's the Travis Scott. And then I swear that way. So popular on Netflix, everybody. See, popular on Netflix. Ain't that funny? There's the Dave Chappelle special. Not that one. Keep going. Just so you see, first one, Travis Scott. Keep going. Show me where Sticks and Stones is. Tell me if you see it, buddy boy.
You gotta search for it.
Got to search for it. You're talking about the most talked about thing on Netflix is not popular on Netflix. Scroll up a little bit. Trending now. Let's see there. You see it? First one, Cars with Jerry Seinfeld.
It's gonna be so offensive.
Where's Dave Chappelle? Look at that. Not even in trending. It's
when you upload this to Spotify and Anchor, people are gonna be like, "What the hell is he talking about? I can't see what he's doing."
Well, okay. So you're right. So I talked about this at the beginning before we started the show, and you're right. Thank you for reminding me. For those that did not see what I just did, I went to the Netflix app on my Galaxy Note 9, and the main ad is for Travis. Say again. I'm sorry.
I said wearing the Trump hat, gold chain, getting you far down the road with that Galaxy X9, whatever the hell you want to say.
Oh, I get far down the road and want to take me down to the old town road.
Please God, no, its song died. Let's
I hate that song. Never liked it. Not only did it not die, I think it broke the record for most weeks #1 on the Billboard charts in history. If that doesn't make you sad, Jimi Hendrix fan, nothing would.
I'm not surprised.
That's fucking sad, dude. That song sucks. Is it catchy? Sure. It does suck. It's simple, basic rap. Are you kidding? It's not even good rap. Like, again, whether you like Eminem or not, the shit that Eminem spits, or Big L, or Big Pun, or fucking Biggie Smalls, for that matter, who I never thought was as good a lyricist as other people say he was, good storyteller. This guy does this simple, dumbed down bullshit, fucking dumbass rap, and people love it. We are fucked. But anyways, to explain, Travis Scott is the main ad that they're promoting. And then I went to 2 different categories. Popular on Netflix. It does not show up in any of the scrolling there for Sticks and Stones. And trending now. So my point is, and I guess we can maybe wrap up the show on this note, because Robbie Robertson, my guest for this podcast, from Out of the Blank podcast, folks, Netflix themselves is cowering and not even promoting the special on the app. And now, it's not to say that at another time, I'm sure they have an algorithm that changes these around. And so they're not always in this order. I'm certain of that. And they change the photos on these. But I can tell you now that I went to look this up before starting this podcast, and it is not there. And I find that strange, because we both would agree, I think Robbie Robertson would agree, that it is popular on Netflix. Certainly more popular than his other stand-up that's here, the Austin one, and that it would be trending now. It's the biggest fucking story that pertains to a Netflix show going on right now. Nothing else on Netflix. Nobody's talking about Travis Scott, just so you know. And Mindhunter, I've seen a couple things about. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Aziz Ansari's popular. Colin Quinn. Murder Mystery, been out for fucking months with Adam Sandler. I mean, come the fuck on. Whitney Cummings, trending now. Stranger Things is still trending. Stranger Things. Travis Scott. Schitt's Creek. Here's your Tom Segura. Disgraceful.
All right, well, not to go through the whole damn Netflix.
I'm not. By the way, Tom Segura has 3 specials on this.
Completely Normal, Mostly Stories, and Disgraceful. Yeah, I'm a big Tom Segura fan. So
interesting. He doesn't even look like Jason Momoa at all. But something tells me that if you had to go to music class to learn how to play the male organ, you probably wouldn't mind if this guy was your instructor.
He's a funny dude. He has a bit about his doctor and stuff. And I like that.
He has a bit about his doctor.
He creates relatable experience. His doctor was giving him one of those, what are those things? Prostate exams. And he goes, man, this isn't my first one today. It feels like it's becoming a normal day thing. And he's saying that as he's sticking his fingers in the dude's butt. He's like, excuse me? He goes, what? He goes, so what are you doing in your free time? Like, asking him all these really small talk questions. And his doctor's like, he has a bit about his doctor. I can't do it justice. You got to look it up and watch his old stuff.
I will have to do that.
That was one of the first podcasts I started listening to with Joe Rogan, was Your Mom's House podcast. Him and his wife, they just talk about like shitting. They talk about a bunch of stuff. They just make fun of people. It's like, it's weird. It's
so Tom Segura's wife, you mean?
Tom Segura's wife, Christina Pazitsky, has a couple comedy specials, but she was on a show with Joey Diaz on his first comedy special for Netflix called Disgraceful. It's like 5 comedians back to back. It's really good, dude. So you gotta check it out. They have a good vibe.
I know he's tied in with Joe Rogan. I do know that Joe Rogan and him are close, and he does mention him a lot. And I think Burt Kreischer as well, right?
Yeah, it's they all have really good podcasts, and nowadays you're seeing every person that pops up on Joe Rogan, Joe just puts them onto their podcast, so they all get the same guests.
And so now, Burt Kreischer decided he does one, as you said, with Segura.
Yeah, he's been doing one. He does one called the Burt Cast, and then Tom Segura does one called Your Mom's House, and then Joe Rogan has his, and then they do Burt and Tom now do it together, called Two Bears, One Cave.
Yeah, Two Bears. That's a gay reference. You actually highlighted it before. Not to say that anybody's gay, and not to say that there's anything wrong with that. But if you didn't know, in the gay world, a bear is a fat, kind of chubby, hairy dude. And in the gay world, a lot of gay guys like that type of guy and seek that type of guy out, and he's known as a bear. If he's an older bear, he's a daddy bear. And if he's kind of not that heavy and he's kind of a little hairy, he's an otter. So there's even that. And then if he's a young, hairless, 21-year-old young man with a six-pack, he's a twink. And there's
Hey.
I'm just letting you know, in the gay community, there's a lot of identifiers.
Great shot to me. That was not outlined so much. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. If you think that you're a twink, God bless you. I will say the twinks are probably the highest on the pecking order. So congratulations.
All right. That was softer. That was like a backhanded compliment.
No, it's totally not an insult. That's really the term. They call them twinks.
That's like what you do to girls when you say, "Yeah, you look amazing today," but I don't like how I liked your hair better the other way, and then you just take away kind of the bit of the compliment. That's what you do.
I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to identify what the same way I did with the bears and the otters. That there's just these terminologies that are identifiers in the gay community. I think the reason why the gay community does that, and he's falling asleep. Just so you know, well, I didn't live in either, but I lived in close enough proximity to Wilton Manors, which is the gay subdivision of Fort Lauderdale. I've spent much time there, and it's a very great city, very safe, cool guys, the whole deal. You know what I mean? They like to party. Gay guys like to drink in the daytime, I've noticed. He's falling asleep. And then I've also worked in Greenwich Village, which was the gay section of New York City. So nobody has to tell me. I got my gay card a long time ago, brother, and it's right here in this hand. Hey, bing bong.
You went full circle from Dave Chappelle, all the stuff he made fun of, and then you brought it back down to the description of all.
Down to the nitty gritty with that chick with the big old titties. Some people like them, some people don't. We got ourselves a rinky dinky Twinkie right here on the other line, folks. You're listening to the Mr. Josh podcast. We're gonna wrap it up. We got Robbie Robertson. They call him the MD Twink. Read between the lines, folks. And he's not a doctor. We're going to wrap it up. We both like Dave Chappelle. We both give it 2 thumbs up. Make that 4 for Gore. And he gave it a 10. I give it a 9 or 10. I thought it was great. I laughed a lot. I like what he did, the Chinese guy. I thought that was very funny. I don't get offended by anything anymore. I've seen 2 Girls, 1 Cup. I did get offended by that. I didn't watch the whole thing. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen in my whole life. And I also watched Luca Magnotta actually kill that Asian boy and eat him in a video. And I've been through the whole Rotten.com phase when the internet first came out and some of the shit. But I don't get off on any gore or any of that. But offensive words or anything like that after working in a strip club and watching a girl take a shit in a garbage can because she didn't want to walk to the bathroom. I don't know, man. Does anything offend you anymore? I mean, there's just what is offensive anymore? I don't know. If you want to get offended, watch some old John Waters movies. Go Google the movie Pink Flamingos by John Waters, and that's offensive. There's some weird cinema that can be offensive. Some of these experimental filmmakers that do some really weird, wild, wacky shit. That being said, I was not offended by Dave Chappelle. Everybody, get rid of the cancel culture. I think Robbie would agree with that. I think we would agree that it's okay to laugh at ourselves. It's okay to laugh at stereotypes. They are funny. Let's laugh at all of them so it's an even playing field, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Let's laugh at the gay ones. Let's laugh at the midget ones. Let's laugh at the handicap ones. Let's laugh at the tranny ones. Let's laugh at the white ones, the fat ones, the tall ones, the slutty ones, whatever the identifier is, black folks, whatever. Can't we just laugh at all of it and just so it's an even playing field? Wouldn't that be fair, right? I mean, would you agree with that? If it's all on the table?
I'm walking on air. Believe it or not.
I got to tell you that on a side note, and I didn't say it during the podcast, that song has a lot of meaning to me. I own that song on 45, which is the little records, not the full LPs. That was one of my favorite songs as a kid. The show was called The Greatest American Hero. It's before your time. And he was like this kind of like, he wasn't a real superhero. He was kind of like a nerd that would kind of was one. He wore an all red outfit, much like I did. So I'm like a nerd as well. And I'm a nerd and I'm pretty proud of it. That's from Revenge of the Nerds, one of my favorite movies of the 80s.
Nerds!
Right. I'm a nerd and I'm pretty proud. And those guys, those fucking bastards, they trashed our house. For what? Why? Because we're smart?
You have the longest outro I have ever been a part of. I have to. God.
That's a 5-minute outro. All right, listen. The best part about podcasts is there's no set time frame. But somebody told me that Robbie has warm milk that's on the stove right now. So he's got to get to that so he can go to bed. He's got a rough day tomorrow. I
had no idea what you just said because your connection being down in Florida has literally just gone to crap where you just like froze for the past minute.
Can you hear me now?
I can't.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, I said that Robbie has to go now because he has warm milk cooking, simmering right now on the stovetop, and he has to
listen to the last 2 minutes of this podcast. I know it's not.
He has to get to bed. So we're going to sing him a lullaby. Folks, this is the end of the podcast. This was all about Sticks and Stones, Dave Chappelle. We're going to wrap up. Listen to Out of the Blank with Robbie Robertson. Continue to listen to Mr. Josh podcast. And
you got to start getting up early in the mornings so we can do an early morning podcast.
I agree. I do get up pretty early. We can do a daytime one of these. It'll be your subject next time. Fair enough?
Be up 6 a.m. Let's do it tomorrow, 6 a.m.
No, that's ridiculous.
Okay, what time do you get up? I got podcasts.
But what's the subject for 6 a.m. tomorrow?
I got podcasts starting at 4 a.m. I'll think of something.
Okay.
Actually, no, 3 a.m. So I got about 2 hours of good sleep.
Does this make sense to anybody? Does this make sense to anybody? The point of doing this is to enjoy ourselves. This guy sleep deprives himself just so that he can talk to a juggler in fucking Albuquerque. You're gonna have a great time.
Dude, I had a woman on my podcast that does a pep talk thing. She works in Jamaican law. She's a Jamaican lawyer, and I was talking to her, and she was talking about how she does this pep talk podcast. I'm like, what time is it there? She's like, it's like 4 p.m. here. And I'm like, dude, it's like 1 a.m. here right now. She's like, yeah. I'm like,
nuts.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I enjoy it.
He does. He burns the candle at both ends. He enjoys the midnight oil. How can we sleep when our beds are burning? There you go, folks. We're going to wrap it up. He's got to do a podcast in 4 hours. And listen to that. Like I said,
got you on in 6 hours.
He talks to a sword. He's going to talk to a sword juggler from Albuquerque. And Albuquerque. And that should be a lot of fun. There's a lot of interesting questions you can ask, like, do you light the sword on fire? Does it really go down your throat? And all sorts of cool stuff like that. Did you name any of your swords Momoa?
Stay tuned for Josh's double feature, which happens tomorrow at 10 a.m. Josh will be
10 a.m. works. And if you can, at 9 a.m., give me the subject matter so I can study profusely for an hour.
I will send you in at 7 in the morning. I'll send you a subject matter, and I will completely dive you in with a whole different topic.
Perfect. All right, folks. So there you go. We're going to wrap it up. I got my marching orders. We'll both see you tomorrow. That's it. Sayonara. Good evening. Make America great again. It's already great. All right. And we're out. Okay. Stop the video.
Yeah, but you're still recording.
Am I recording still? No, recording you. All right.
It's recording.
It's recording. All right. See you later, folks. Ta-ta.
Yeah, you might want to edit that last bit out.
We'll do that.